This episode is brought to you by CarterComics.com. It's your one-stop shop for all your comic needs, whether it be graded or raw. Carter Comics has got it all. All you gotta do is go to CarterComics.com, fill your card up with all their amazing comics. Use the discount code FREAKNET, FREAKNET. Save you 10% at checkout. Not only on their website, but also at their eBay account. And the link to eBay can be found on their homepage at CarterComics.com. Again, CarterComics.com is your one-stop shop for all comic needs. What's up, everybody? I am Travesty, and welcome to another episode of this freaking show. It is the weekly podcast with a little bit of something and a whole lot of nothing. Cartoon Joe is not here with us today. Don't smirk. Let me get through my stuff.
I left.
Well, yeah, you know, there's no reason to laugh. Let me get through my shit, bro. I gotta get my shit in. God, now I'm all confused. Okay, this is the weekly podcast with a little bit of something and a whole lot of nothing. Cartoon Joe is not here with me today. He's dealing with some stuff, which is cool. It's totally fine. It happens. I planned something. I'm happy that I'm actually doing it. If you guys listen to JFW, which I know there are some people who kind of listen to both shows that I do, you guys know who the Fourth Mother Box are. We talk about it quite often. I don't want to say bitch to each other because it's not what it is. It's I don't know. I don't even know how to. I guess it's basically just a way for Nubby to get more shit in. But if you guys haven't listened to Fourth Mother Box yet, I do recommend you go do so. But Tom and Kyle, the hosts of Fourth Mother Box, are here with me today. So, guys, thank you for being here.
What's up? Thanks for having us.
Yeah. And I think the original idea, and I know I'm going to sound like Steve here for a minute, is the original idea is to kind of come on here and just talk about, like, you know, what's going on between us. But really that doesn't matter too much anymore because I think, like, it kind of, like, dissolved a little bit. Yeah, I think, like, you know, now it's mostly just, you know, Nubby coming up to me is like, so did you hear what happened on the Fourth Mother Box today? And again, I have to say, they didn't say anything bad about me. It's like, it's always you. Quit pulling me into your shit. You know? But real honestly, I just want to be able to talk to you guys, like, I guess normally, you know, without the worries of, you know, like, who believes in what, who hates who, you know, my feelings on Star Wars, and something about Frosties I still don't understand the story with, and, like, Mike either crapping himself or throwing up on something. You guys live quite the life, I'll tell you that much. But really, it's just, I want to get people who are longtime fans of Freakin Studios to kind of know Fourth Mother Box, you know, learn, like, who you guys are, because you guys have a pretty cool concept of what you do in your podcast when you talk about the Marvel, DC, and you, like, deep dive into that stuff, which I think when I started this freaking show so long ago, like, that was the general idea, and then obviously never happened. But I found a new concept I love doing here. But firstly, tell people, I guess, one at a time. I don't care. Tom, you can go first, I guess, because you're the leader. I'm not quite sure how you guys is.
You hear that, Kyle? I'm the leader.
God.
It's
my bitch.
I mean, if this was a talk show, Kyle, I think you're Andy Richter. Which isn't a bad thing. He's still there. It's just, you know, he's not Conan. You know,
Conan does have red hair. He is a ginger.
See, no, it all works out. And Conan's, you know, tall, and I believe Tom is slightly taller than you. We talked about
slightly,
that.
way more taller than Kyle.
I've never seen you guys in person, so I'm just trying to be a little bit generous to Kyle.
Tom is like 4'2".
Add 2 feet to that. Your mother enjoys it quite aptly.
4'2".
But so here we go. Yeah. What do you want to know about Fourth Mother Box?
First, I want to kind of know about you guys.
Like, sure.
Let's just, like, I mean, I know there's been a couple of times where we talked, obviously, in JFW, but even on this freaking show, we spoke a little bit about you guys. And, you know, I mentioned to everyone, like, we have 2 new theme songs for both our podcasts, and Tom created those, you know. So just, I guess just a little bit more like, hey, I'm Tom, MeTOMicA, that part.
Yeah. Sure. Well, it all started in 1986. No. But yeah, I refer to myself as MeTOMicA more often now, just because I'm trying to get like not a brand, but when I do stuff with music, I'm just trying to get that stuff off there. Plus, I'm never too into like using full names out there entirely too much. It doesn't bother me, but um, so yeah, I Kyle and I knew each other, Buck, from we met each other through a guy by the name of Vince, who I play fantasy football with. That's pretty much the only connection I have with him now. And Kyle and I became friends, mutual friends, over the band I'm shamelessly repping right now, Metallica, with the hat and the shirt. We connected over that back in a little bit before that. I met him in 8th grade. Both from Chicago. I live in Florida now. I lived in Arizona for 8 years. Moved almost 4 years ago to live in Florida, right down the street from Walt Disney World. And it sounds like you have a question to ask me later, Travis. So I look forward to that. But Kyle and I knew each other. Went to the same high school. We went to Marist High School in Chicago. The same high school Dan Donegan of Disturbed went to just a few years before us. Um, it was it was all boys, probably a good thing, and probably explains a lot of my issues with the opposite sex, or the issues I had. um, but no, it's and then after that, both Kyle and I are big, Batman nerds. The love of Metallica took us into creating a band together called Scourge. Um, Scourge's claim to fame was we opened for Megadeth in 2008 at the Rave Eagles Ballroom in Milwaukee. It was Megadeth, Children of Bodom, Job for a Cowboy, and In Flames. That was on the Gigantour. It was like the second or third year of that Gigantour. Third year, I think. We played one of the side stages. It was fucking cool. We got to play Kyle's college a lot. I can let him talk more about that when he talks. Out in St. Joe's, Indiana. So Scourge was fun. We got to create some music. And then after that, I moved to Arizona, but Scourge had dissolved a little bit before that. But when Zack Snyder's Justice League came out, because both Kyle and I are huge fucking nerds, huge comic book guys, Batman, DC specifically. Zack Snyder's Justice League came out, and go listen to Fourth Motherbox. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you the big story behind that. We don't have all the time in the world today, but Kyle and I were so fired up from that movie on how good it was. And come argue me at Fourth Motherbox on Instagram right now if you want to argue that it sucks or you don't like Zack Snyder's vision. Like, I can respectfully talk about it, but we're like, man, I just said let's create a podcast, or let's do a podcast episode to talk about the Snyder Cut, because I was so fired up about it, and it just pretty much took off from there, and it's evolved. So now we sit here and we kind of talk about pretty much whatever we want and try to keep it within the realm of comics, and Metallica sneaks in there quite often because you can't get away from us. So that's, spoiler alert, that's part of the reason why we're looking to rebrand. So
Metal fans, I think, are often like superhero comic book nerds. I feel like a lot of people who listen to metal are often like introverted. It's because metal is kind of like the redheaded stepchild that gets kicked, that nobody likes, in the world of music. And so, like, you just see a lot of people tend to gravitate towards this, towards this genre, and you can kind of see like that's where the comic book, the Star Wars people come in as well. So in some way it does connect in a lot of ways. So it's pretty cool. And Tom, Tom mentioned we played at the Rave a long time ago. We opened up for Megadeth, and the cool part of that story, besides almost blowing up our hotel room, is that we were just like kind of a fledgling kind of a band. I don't remember how far. It was like right after college, I think we played that show. But the coolest thing was
June 2008. So whenever you graduated, yeah.
So maybe a couple years in, but we weren't like really big in the scene. But one of the coolest things happened to Tom at a Cubs game. I remember somebody recognized him and like remembered some of the lyrics to one of our songs. So, which was like hugely amazing because it's like in a different state, and like, why would they remember us, So it was truly like, it was a cool moment.
Mm-hmm. It was, yeah, and it was, it's kind of like I think that was Scourge's 15 minutes of fame, in a sense. It's like everybody gets that peak, and I think that was it. And the show with Megadeth was just hustling to get on that show. That's really all it was from us. So, and we all made it happen, right? Our money. I'm probably still in debt from what I spent to get me to Chicago to Milwaukee. Everyone else had to do it, the old band adage where all of our shit was loaded up in like 5 cars. We all drove from Chicago to Milwaukee.
Mhm.
Tim,
So-
I remember Tim, our drummer, he's like a tall dude, and he had this little Toyota Corolla, and he had to pack his drums in there. And it just was like, what's that scene in The Simpsons where like it's Nelson laughing at the really tall guy in the car?
Are you
And-
laughing at the size of my automobile?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
guy. That's Tim.
But
Yeah.
he like literally arrived, and then they made us go on stage, which was totally different than what they had told us on the phone. So it was a little bit of
It was stressful.
yeah, it was stressful. It was, it was really nerve-wracking because like Dave Mustaine is playing upstairs, and here we are, this like little band from Elsip, Illinois, playing on the side stage. So it was truly a cool moment. Absolutely.
It was. I remember seeing the guy I met at I met a dude at Hot Topic when I was buying a couple of Metallica shirts like weeks before the show when we were just talking, and I was selling tickets to uh Gigantour because that was part of it. You had tickets and you could sell them to get people to come see you, and got your ticket to see Megadeth too. So
Yeah.
I was eating the cost and giving a decent amount of them away because I just wanted people there. I just wanted people there, like, hey, you want to see a free Megadeth show? And yeah, like this guy's like, fuck yeah. And I told him about us, and I can't. He'd probably get in trouble for this, but this was so many years ago, almost 20 years ago. I gave him a ticket. I said, "Here you go." And he's like, "Oh, hold up, man." And then he gave me the 2 shirts I was looking to buy for free under the table. And then I ended up seeing that guy front row at our show. I remember we were in the middle of
Damn.
playing. We were middle of playing Scourge of All, and I looked down, and he's just right there up against the stage. He like pointed at me, and I was like, "Oh, fuck, it's this guy." So yeah, it's fun times. Your buddy, your co-host, Nubby Mikey over there, JFW. He's got a lot of Scourge history. His claim to fame is, and Kyle could tell this story better, but he's fallen over in midst of a mosh pit. So
Didn't he dress up like Batman once?
he did do that, yes.
And then he fought Chris for some reason.
Yes.
Why did we decide that was
That was
necessary?
staged. That was staged. That was because Scourge played the Batman, like the old '60s Batman theme song, like a na 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 na, like we would metal it up.
Yeah.
And we played it, and we had gotten with Mike beforehand because he had like a Batman Halloween costume. So we're just like, Mike, when we play this, we want you to run out of nowhere because we're at Ashbury's Coffee House upstairs. Like, come out of nowhere and just start like fighting Chris. Because I think Chris, he was trying to steal, like kidnap somebody who was there. So we're like, oh no, somebody needs to help. Then Mike came out and we were playing Batman, and he was like fake beating up Chris. I
Which
just
is-
remember
Which
that
is
being funny.
strange because Chris, he wrestled a lot with you when
Yes.
you guys had your old wrestling days. And Chris is like, he's not a small guy. He's like a big dude.
Well, Chris is taller than me, and yeah, just a big, massive guy. Like he would be our version of almost almost like he's big dude,
Mhm.
not fat, just thick,
Yeah.
big guy. Yeah. So yeah, that was funny seeing tiny ass Mike. It was like a David and Goliath kind of thing, but
Yep.
yeah, Scourge was good times.
God, there's so much to unpack in that.
I know. There's so much to
Wow.
unpack.
That's why I thought you're just gonna be like, "Hey, I'm Tom. Yeah, I host Sports Motherbox Jedi Talk, and I'm an avid, goer of Disney."
Oh yeah, that too.
You kind of biographied yourself right there, brother. I appreciate that too because there's a lot of follow-up questions to it. But I do want to give Kyle an opportunity to talk. You don't do that a lot on Fourth Motherbox.
I
Yeah,
don't
dick.
know. Is people don't want that, but go on.
Everybody wants
we
that.
we have negative listens from his solo episode, by the way. Like
That was
I owe
that was our
Spotify. I owe
highest
Spotify money.
Is that what it
That
is?
was
Like,
our highest listened episode ever.
it's like Spotify's going into other shows. Like, yeah, we're deducting the views off of these, just
Yeah.
as retro. Okay, I got you.
It's like the federal government. It's like taking hard-earned money from other people.
It was
what?
Yeah, Kyle. Yeah, introduce yourself too, man. Because I don't because like I said, I don't really know a lot about you except for the fact that you and Pax happen to work in similar. I guess you guys don't have the same job, but you guys work with a similar. I can't even call it a company or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I know a little bit about you. I know you're the one that first called me Roz, whatever. But yeah, tell everyone about you too, man. And then I kind of want to deep dive into what you guys kind of bring up and talk about it. So.
Yeah, so funny stories, like, our podcast started warring for a couple months, and like I had never met Pac-Man in person. But I knew what he looked like. And then I was walking out of work one day and I saw some guy that looked like him, like walking into the building, and he had like a uniform on, I think. And I'm like looking at him, I'm like, is that Pac-Man? And then I like Facebooked him and I looked on it and I think I saw he worked at the same company. I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
You should have jumped him there.
Yeah. I see him randomly. Like he was walking like on the side of the road out, like far away from the place where we work as I was driving in. And I was just like, what is he doing?
Yeah. He's like the adult version of Thurman Merman. Like
perfect.
Yeah, and I could imagine like as you acknowledging him like walking across like some like yard. I'm assuming he's like the kind of adult who wears both straps on a backpack, leaving for the day.
Yeah,
just like
absolutely.
like gut forward, back arched, just shuffling his feet like a true. Like when I first met that dude, I'm like, this is Thurman Merman. Like this is the guy. Like, and it was so true, especially from the scene where it's like, Billy Bob Thornton's driving him home. He's like, somebody dropped you on your head. He's like, on my head? He's like, yeah, they dropped you on somebody else's fucking head. And that scene, that's what came to my mind the first time I ever spoke to Pat. And I'm like, holy crap, this is my Merman. This is the guy. He's going to bleed trying to make me a wooden pickle and just wreck my life. A little bit for the positive, mostly for headaches and shit. But yeah, Kyle, talk about you, man. Let's hear about you, man.
Yeah, well, Bad Santa is like fucking hilarious. I mean, that movie, no matter how many times I watch it, it'll never be not funny.
Yeah. Didn't need a sequel. Did not need a sequel.
No, it definitely didn't. But that first one, definitely a cult classic.
Yes.
So like Tom, I still live in Chicago. I've lived here all my life, and I question that why I live here every day. I'm sure you do too. When you walk outside and it's fucking balls ass cold.
If it wasn't for family, I'd be gone by now. If my mom and dad still didn't live here, I'd be gone.
That's what everybody says. You know what? Like I say that to my wife. I'm like, if my parents go, and unfortunately, we're gonna be out of here. Like, we're gonna go south somewhere that's warm. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, it just gets old after a while. So yeah, I mean, I lived here all my life. I work as as Tom infamously puts it, I am a therapist. I'm on, therapycouch.com. I have half a star. It gets lower every day. They try to give me a lower review, but it just doesn't go any lower. So I've been doing that for like 14 years now. So that's a part of like my side business in addition to working where Pac-Man works. And so I've done that for some time. Huge Batman fan, Metallica, like Tom and I think Tom and I met through our buddy Vince, but then I think it was like high school where we started to really become friends, because I just remember one day, like, he was sitting across like the classroom and he had like some Injustice for All shirt on. Yeah. And I was like, fuck yeah, that dude's got a Metallica shirt on. And where we grew up, like listening to Metallica, or like in that neighborhood or like that school, everybody's like into like Dave Matthews Band and like Fish with a P. And, like no hate to those bands, because Dave Matthews, like I'm a guitarist, like, he's a good musician. I like a few of his songs, like definitely no disrespect, but like, I always gravitated towards like the fast and the heavy and the different. And that's what, Tom and I connected right away because we love Metallica. And then, obviously like superhero shit. So This horrible friendship was born out of that.
It was. Yeah, it was. Metallica is so just hearing him talk about them. That's part of the reason why we're rebranding, right? I think you questioned it a bit on JFW. It's like, and you're right. It's like we're still talking about the stuff we talk about, but the fourth mother box, pun not intended here, but intended, boxes us into DC specifically.
Yeah.
And we are more than DC. So I think that's our attempt, and it's not going to be an overnight rebrand. We'll get there eventually. But yeah, Metallica, like it's just Kyle and I kind of, and a lot of my closer friends, Tim, who is, and even Brian Hanna back, who was in Scourge, it was all metal connection, right? That's why we were friends. We bonded over that, and it just kind of grew from there. And I think the heavy metal community in general gets a lot of bad rap because on surface it's angry white boy music, right? It's just angry white, and it's true to a sense, but if you truly look at the people who are going to the Metallica shows, man, it's God, it's such a different, it is such a vibe. It's such a different vibe. It's so hard to explain. Kyle knows it. I know it. Mike knows it, Tim knows it, all of our buddies know it. It's where there's this like there's just this camaraderie, there's all these different types of people, kind of same with wrestling in a sense. All these different types of people, just common love for heavy music, Metallica, it's just like this. And there's way more of that in the quote unquote like fast and heavier music community than people would think. They think we're just angry. They think it's just like they want to listen to this and burn the world. Well, while that may be true, like there's a lot more complexity to that shit. People have problems, and it's not as simple as turning on a Taylor Swift song about her eventual breakup with Travis Kelce, just to make me feel good because she put it out on her. She re-recorded it with 10 new seconds of farting, and it made $1 billion. I don't know. Yeah, that was a shot at Taylor Swift. I don't give a fuck.
But, like there's just such a difference at I went to Eric Clapton once to see him in concert versus, seeing like Metallica or Slipknot or some metal bands. There's just such a different vibe to it. There's so much energy at these shows. Like you can't just go there and sit down like and be bored. Like it's a truly different experience. And you see some like colorful creations of the world, like some real interesting individuals at these concerts, which is an aside in itself too.
I always run into somebody I know. It's like somebody you've seen before. You may have met this person 15 years ago at a Metallica show, and you always see him again. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. So
yeah, it's I mean, I could understand like where people get the idea, and I'm probably like thinking more like back, like 2007, like when I was a senior in high school, even actually before that. I had a friend of mine who was huge into Metallica. Now, as far as his love for Metallica, I'm not sure how deep he actually went with it because I've never been a huge Metallica fan. The only reason I ever listened to Metallica was because of Paul Konerko. Like that's the only reason. And there's only like a few songs by Metallica I even like. Just because it's not that they're a bad band. I think I may have said it on JFW at one point or not. They're just not my kind of music because I don't know. It's just something about that genre of music where it just like it doesn't excite me to listen to it. It's just not me. I love Sanitarium. I think that's my favorite Metallica song. Sad But True is also up there. But like when you like deep dive into like these albums, like a coworker of mine, John, he's huge. He went to that weekend thing you guys went to. Which by the way, is it weird that there's like a Saturday break?
No, these guys are 63 years old. Not weird at all. And Metallica takes over the whole weekend too. It's like they're stuff
everywhere.
There's stuff during those days. It's like you get there Thursday. It's like there's stuff you do every single day. It's so much fun. I love it. I'm going in less than 4 months to Tampa. I can't wait.
So even like we saw like when we went downtown in Chicago, you just feel it right away, and people will start asking you like, where are you going? Like, what's this line for? We were waiting to get in the pop-up shop, but even when we saw them in other cities like San Francisco, like it's everywhere. There's there's like a sea of black shirts, just roaming throughout the city, and it's truly a cool sight to see.
Yeah.
San Francisco's even more of a vibe because that's where they're from.
That's their hometown,
history
yeah.
is their
really?
history is the Bay Area. That's thrash metal was born in the Bay Area. So
Is that what they're considered, thrash metal?
well, yeah. Well, and I mean now Metallica's redefined, and I think Metallica has defined what it is to be heavy metal. You know, they kind of took what Black Sabbath did and kind of smoothed it out. When they started, they were thrash, like Kill 'Em All. That's fast, heavy. That's thrash metal. Anthrax, that's thrash. Slayer, that's thrash. You know, Testament. You know, the earlier stuff. That's what they were. They're thrash heavy metal. So it was officially Metallica's, and I guess
They
hard
did.
rock.
Yeah, they did. I think I may have mentioned this when I did your guys' live stream with you. Did I tell you guys about some like theater show I went to that they did like they streamed like a live concert to a theater from like across from like Europe over here?
Yeah, Kyle and I
Okay.
were at that one.
Okay, yeah. I went to I was in the theater in Joliet, and I think they call it the Big Four. I just can't remember who.
Yep.
I think it was Metallica, Anthrax, uh white something.
No, Metallica, Anthrax, Slayer, and Megadeth are the big four.
Slayer, okay, so is the lead singer Megadeth? I guess maybe at that time did he like? I don't know if you remember. Was he wearing like all white? He was associated with Metallica for some time, right?
Dave Mustaine used to be, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
He used to be in Metallica.
Yep.
Okay.
At one point.
So in that concert, I think he was wearing all white, and he had like really like white. That's why I keep thinking like White Stripe or White Snake, not White Snake.
Oh.
But like it was something about that. And I remember the guy I was with was like, he's like, oh yeah, he has issues with Hetfield, and I'm like, dude, I don't even know why the fuck I'm here, to be honest with you. Like, I don't enjoy this music. I just felt bad for the guy because he was talking at work one day, he's like, yeah, I really want to go see this concert, but nobody wants to go with. And I was like, oh sure, I'll go. And I'm a 19-year-old kid. This is a 45-year-old guy, and I'm like, and he's picking me up, and like I'm assuming his mom's van, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get raped. Like this is like this is it. But the thing is too, like he dressed just like my buddy did, like in high school. You know, and this again, he's 45 years old, but we're walking up to and I think I still have the picture of him like somewhere walking up, but you know, blue jeans, got chain on, he's wearing a Metallica shirt. I think there's a fleece jacket wrapped around his waist, you know, and
Fleece?
or not fleece,
a jean jacket,
plaid,
a plaid. Oh,
plaid.
okay,
yeah. And he's excited. I'm like, I mean, good for this guy. And like the concert was good. It just wasn't my music, you know. And then, like obviously everyone was into it, and I'm sitting here thinking like, hell, this thing's got to be almost fucking over. But yeah, it just wasn't my music. It was cool to kind of experience it. But anyway, so yeah, in 07, like my buddy, like who was big into Metallica, wore nothing but Metallica shirts. He had like, I think like a rotation of like 10 or 12 Metallica shirts that he just constantly wore.
That's
always
awesome.
Black jeans, always black sneakers, and he always wore a leather trench coat. And I know he got a lot of shit for it. Like a lot of people called him Columbine a lot. And I know that, yeah.
Yep. That's the stereotype you get when you listen to this music. So
and I don't know if I'm trying to remember. I don't know if you guys ever saw the documentary about Bowling for Columbine or whatever the hell it was, but I know they talked about the shooters in Columbine out there in Colorado back. I think it was '99. It was or whatever. I know they reference metal music as something that they constantly listen to, and I think that was a poor decision on them doing so because you can't associate what they did in Colorado with that genre of music. You know, it's like the same thing. Like it's just the concept of like it's like, oh, they're all devil worshiping. It's like no, just because Ozzy bit the head off a fucking bat doesn't mean the entire genre of music is doing nothing but worshiping the devil. You know, if you look at metal as a whole, like just not these subcategories, but the overall category of metal, there's a lot of bands that, you know, are, I guess, as comparable to the sound of Metallica, but you can look at them as like Christian music, like Skillet, Creed, stuff like that. You know, they're not devil worshiping, but they do have the loud, you know, guitars and drums and the way that the singings occurred and everything. It's like when you sit there and you do what they did with metal music and metal music in Columbine, you almost destroy a genre. which was always goofy to me. You know, it's like when I listen to like 80s music and everyone's like, oh, that's all about sex and drugs. I'm like, well, that's what made it good. You know, but that's not what it's all about. You know, it's like, you know, just listen to a couple of things, you know, just actually listen to the song, listen to the lyrics, you know, and yeah, anyway, it's a weird rant, but yeah, when I heard that you were a therapist, I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Just by the way, kind of like you answer certain questions and stuff, which I think is actually pretty cool. Um, I always had this weird concept, and I kind of changed my mind over the last few years. But when I was a lot younger, I used to tell people, like when they're like, "Oh, like you know, I'm thinking about going to go see somebody," and I was like, honestly, to go to a therapist is a complete waste of money. Like to sit there and have somebody you don't know tell you how to live your life makes no sense to me. But that was years ago, and obviously, I kind of like I guess the real expectation now is like you want to get an unbiased opinion of what's going on in life and how, you know, how to course correct. And obviously, being well educated, you're able to do that regardless of what your rating is on some website that I obviously don't know exists or not. But what made you want to go into that? Because that's almost like it's for me, and a lot of people sit there and say like, oh, you should be a psychologist, you should be whatever the non-medical prescription doctor. Like I know there's like therapists and psychologists, one like does medicine, one doesn't or whatever. It's the non-medication prescribing one. And it's very hard for me to take on that responsibility, because what you're basically doing is talking to somebody who is struggling through life in one way or another, sometimes to the ultimate extreme of like, I don't want to be all morbid about it, but like, you know, people who are so depressed and like, what's the point of moving forward? And now you're taking on that responsibility of, let's find a reason for that. Let's find a way for that not to be your goal. And that's a huge toll, man. Like, I'm just curious, like what made you want to get into that profession?
Well, you know, I think it's certainly changed over the years, like the profession in itself.
Yeah.
And when I was in college, like I originally wanted to go into criminal justice. I mean, like typical Mount Greenwood South Sider. And what town did you grow up in, Travis?
Peatone, born and raised.
Peatone.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like in
You
our
never heard of it, right?
no, I've heard of it. I have, but like in our neighborhood, it's just like cops and firemen and nurses, and
Yeah.
it
Al
seems
Capone,
like
right? And that's not too far off from where he's buried, right? Mount Greenwood.
I don't know, but I know
He,
there's like lore all over the place, Chicago, of like this is where
yeah.
Capone, dumped bodies here. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I wanted to
Well,
go in.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, you're good.
So I wanted to go into that in college, and then like I wasn't like a messed up kid. In college, I mean, I was an idiot for sure. I mean,
Okay.
we'll always agree to that. But like, I battled depression in college, and I don't think it wasn't to an extent of like hospitalizations or anything like that. But I
Yeah.
just felt like, an outsider. I felt different. I felt like disconnected. And, that was, I sought a therapist while I was in college. And, it really changed. It really helped me a lot, just being able to sit down and talk with somebody and connect in that way and give me some sort of guidance. It really kind of changed my perspective of, which profession I wanted to go into. And I started taking classes in psychology, and I had a really great mentor in college, and that really helped, like, the momentum of me going into this profession. And so that's what kind of led into it. Tom and I talked Metallica, but you'd be surprised like how many fans I get of like metal. It is the introverted crowd. There's a lot of people that seem to um, just struggle to like connect with others, like battle with depression. Like their whole internal world is just chaos. And I think they connect with metal because it's alive and it makes them feel connected in a way that they can't do in their own life for some reason. So like, the profession itself, it has changed over the years in a way. And there are times where I fucking hate it, honestly. And most therapists would probably tell you that, because when you sit down with people and you're listening to like, maybe there's some of like the worst shit imaginable. Like I've heard some horrible shit that people go through. And in some sense, I feel kind of like privileged to be able to do it because people are like unloading their soul and what they've gone through. And sometimes they haven't told anybody else but me. And I'm like, I just, you get that imposter syndrome when you do it. Because, your entire goal is like, I want to help this person, and your training helps you with that. But, it's very much an art, and a science in one. And so there's just a natural, um, you have to bring your like self into it. You have to be real authentic because you can't just be like, well, you're depressed, so let's just focus on your negative thought processes. And that works to a certain extent, but you have to connect with people. And like being so structured and robotic, it doesn't always do that. And so the really interesting thing about it is you continue to learn about the human experience. And Tom and I being in a band trying to create music is very much the same thing. It's like, how are you going to create this art that connects with people? And so that's what it is for me. Every day, again, like some days like you just feel totally defeated, where people, they come in and you're like, wow, I should quit. But other days, you feel like you're on cloud nine because you've changed somebody's life in a way. And I think that's what the meaningful thing about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's why I'm so good. Go ahead, Tom. Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to kind of highlight Kyle's, talking about therapy there. I think it's BS when people like avoid it or try to say that it's like not manly enough or something like that. Like I'd like to think of myself as a bit having a touch of toxic masculinity, just like every other red-blooded American male around here. But I don't think it's stupid one bit to go see somebody. I've been seeing a therapist regularly for almost 2 years, and it's one of the
Yeah.
best things ever. It's one of the best things ever. You just gotta, there's some shit you just gotta let go if you just vent. And there are not a lot of good therapists. So what Kyle can sustainably do for as long as he's been doing, yeah, it's props to him. So
Yeah.
that's all I wanted to say on that. Yeah.
No, yeah, and that's why, like, over the course of the last few years, like my opinion on therapists and seeing somebody has drastically changed. Because, like I said, I mean, like being younger, you're like, like just assuming you whatever is true. It's gospel. Like it's like no one's gonna tell me I'm wrong, and and it's just sitting there like, it's like, why do you want to go to therapy? Why do you? He's like, if you can't sit here and talk to your friends about your problems, why go to a complete stranger and just spew your bullshit? Like
Mhm.
to me, it didn't make sense then. Like it's like I can sit here, like I'm here right now. I'm here for you right now, and you can tell me your problems right now. But instead, you'd rather go talk to somebody who knows nothing about you and just it. But over the years, like my sister going to therapy, or like nieces going to therapy, and friends, and just it's just like over the years, like just it's like, why are you going, and they you just eventually get the same thing. It's an unbiased opinion. They don't know you, so they get to take the perception of who you created and figure out, okay, well, the reason you do this is because of that. And then it
Mhm.
dawns on me, it's like, okay, so maybe I don't know all of the real you. I know who you are, but there are walls and stuff that you put up because it's the judgment that you don't want to, hear from people. And I know, like, outside of JFW and all that other stuff, like what I created here and what I love about our show now is like I could kind of be like an authentic me. It's like I do have a judgmental side of me, or at least I did. Like, there was more of a like, it's like, just get over it. Like I understand that it sucks, but you need to move on. You need to get over it.
Mhm.
And that's easier for some people than others. So I'm glad that I'm still at 35 years old or whatever. I'm still able to kind of change my views and opinions on things, because I can understand like somebody just don't want to go to somebody close to them because maybe it is a sign of weakness, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's like you said, like going to therapy isn't weak. It's not, it's not a macho thing to say, fuck therapy. People need to go to therapy. these athletes that people praise to go, in football and hockey, these aggressive, they go to therapy. There's no wrong in it. So I think
they employ like sports psychologists nowadays. That's like the trend. I almost had a chance to work with like the White Sox when I started because
that would have been a terrible idea. They're way fucked up over there.
I would have turned them around. But
no, he would have made it worse. They somehow would have been the first Major League Baseball team to go 0-162, Kyle. If you would have been the sports psychologist,
they would be the new Chicago Cubs. But
raise your hand if your favorite baseball team has won championship.
No, I'm just saying it's
more,
like they would
more recently.
They would go longer than the Cubs, but like
okay.
The first place that I worked for, the guy wanted me to do research in sports psychology, and I'm like, that's cool. Like I'll get into that. And then he was like telling me he was in talks with like making a contract with like some big name like sports teams and like the Sox, and the dude took me to like the Gold Coast seating for like the interview, and we were sitting there with Phil Mickelson. I'm not a golfer, but like he was sitting like a couple rows down, and it was just like that was my first interview out of grad school. Sitting in the Gold Coast seating at the White Sox, and I'm like, it was fucking crazy. But it was, I didn't get to do that, which is unfortunate because there was changes in healthcare, so I had to leave the companies. But yeah, like a lot of trends now is like they're employing sports psychologists because not only like are they helping with, they're realizing that the mental aspects are affecting performance, and so the sports psychologist gets in there to try and help them resolve some of those things. So they're like always at their peak game. And I can certainly understand, why that's important.
Oh yeah, no, I get it nowadays. Like the whole concept of the yips, like it's a real thing. Like a game that you played your entire life and you forget how to swing a bat or throw a ball over a plate. Like it's a mental block thing, and that would have been pretty cool. And like I said, yeah, maybe they would have gone 0-162. But at least they have a smile about it, It's just like, hey,
it's true.
And the pressure that they experience, and some of the shows that Tom and I have played, like you're sitting in there. I played a show with a band where it was like a festival, and there was like millions of people there, and I've never been at something like that in my entire life. And like I remember the band I was playing with, the guitarist got lost, and I had to play the whole set by myself. And it was like in front of all these people, the pressure is unbelievable. And even in like wrestling too, can you imagine just walking out there, always having to be at your peak physical game and then be charismatic and all those things? Like wrestling is different than any other sport in that, like, football, you get pads, like soccer, some of these other sports, like you get protection, but like you're getting slammed through like a huge cage or getting hit in the head with like a barbed wire bat or like a chair. Like that shit is like how they maintain that just blows me away. Like The Undertaker talking about in The Last Ride, which was an amazing documentary about just the level of all the surgeries that he's gone through and the level of pain that he goes through, and he still kind of wants to do it. I'm just like, it just blows me away.
Don't ask Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's not a CTE guy. So
yeah, yeah, that's a wild concept. No, and you're right. It's like, dude, the only thing I disagree when it comes to pro players is the amount of money that they make.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. I mean, and the fact that Ohtani getting paid $700 million a year, or I'm sorry, $700 million over the course of 10 years. And the fact that he agreed to get paid $10 million a year for the next decade, just to take $60 million for the next decade after that, knowing that once his contract is up, he's going to be 36, 37 years old, and he could go DH if he could maintain what he's doing up to that point. He could go DH somewhere for the next 5 years, play for another team at the league minimum, which whatever that would be in 2035, but still know that he's making $10 million a year from the Dodgers. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
and I know everyone hates the Dodgers and everything, but honestly, if any other company or if any other team was able to do what they did, they'd be doing the exact same thing. You know, I firmly believe that the Sox, as much as I would hate to admit it, are not going to get any better unless Reindorf sells the team and they move to Kentucky or Nashville, wherever the hell they want to go. It's just they're just not. He has this weird concept of he's going to recreate the Bulls of the '90s, and he's just not. They don't make great picks. The fact that 24 teams passed on Mike Trout before he got drafted is wild to me. You know, that the fact that he was, I think, 25th draft pick is wild to me. But Kyle, you said so you guys met in high school, right? Kyle, why don't you do the wrestling with him and ex Romeo?
I did wrestling in high school. And
no, I mean yeah,
backyard. Kyle did a little bit.
I did a little bit with him.
What was your gimmick?
It was stupid. Like,
yeah, I know. What was it, dude? My first gimmick, General Assassin.
General Assassin.
No, Kyle was Kyle Confrontation.
Yeah, that was stupid. But
was like 15.
What?
It was a play on my last name.
Well, I know that, but what? Say the word again.
Was it Confrontation?
Yes.
Because like there was
so confrontation, but
yeah, confrontation.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
Nice.
But you know, we had a good time with that. It's funny, like jumping off like your like garage roof. I remember doing like swanton bombs off of like garage roofs, like when we were younger. And you just think about doing that now in your 30s. You know, that would be the end of the line.
I 1000%. I've got at least 5 more of those matches in me. I know I could do it now. Basically, I'm telling you, get me in a backyard, give me all those fucking tables and chairs. I'll beat the shit out of somebody. I can do it. Yeah, that shit was wild. Yeah, back in the day.
What was your gimmick?
The one that really stuck out was Red Rapture. That was like when we started, we all had a baby face persona and we had a heel persona. My heel persona was Red Rapture. My face one was Big Red. And then I eventually just, I think, being a heel is so much more fun. So I just kind of leaned into it, and Mike really liked being the baby face. And I think we had a couple more. So I was just like, yeah, I'll like lean into the heel thing, and just kind of grew from there. Yeah. And then when we did shit, I remember it was on a smaller scale. And then our little backyard thing eventually grew to other people who were doing it. And the amount of times we had the cops called on us are pretty funny. And then the infamous.
You were on that show.
Yeah.
That MTV show.
MTV Busted. That? Yeah. MTV Busted. MTV Busted it back. It was a short-lived show for one season on MTV. That like cops would bust kids essentially, or people for doing stuff like smoking pot or stealing something. And then we got busted for backyard wrestling. And the funniest part about that was we had just got done doing a show, and the cop shows up with like cameras and stuff, and like most of the people had left because they showed up late because there was a call. Somebody thought there were gunshots, but it was a buddy whose backyard promotion, I use that quotations, it was called TWC. And he had a wrestling ring in the front / backyard, and the sound just made it sound like gunshots. So that's why the cops got called. They showed up. And a little behind the scenes here, not really, I've said this before elsewhere, but they scheduled to come back and film the cop coming and busting us up just to, make it look like we got busted for wrestling, which we really didn't. So yeah, that was the whole MTV Busted thing. That was pretty much the peak of it, and it all kind of dipped from there.
So you guys wrestled in a ring that made it sound like gunshots, and they showed up at the end of the show.
Yes.
So what you're telling me is you guys were able to do an entire show of slamming each other on the ring, making these gunshot type noises, and that's how long it took for cops to show up.
Oaklawn, Illinois, man.
Show.
Oaklawn, I don't know what to tell you.
I want to deep dive into that wrestling history because I do want to kind of compare my backyard days with your backyard days, because that sounds fantastic. Yeah. But we've been doing this for about 50 minutes, and we have yet to talk about the rebranding of Fourth Mother Box.
That's
And I
right.
also still got to ask my Disney question.
That's right. Hey,
And,
here's
and
my
good on.
suggestion: bring Mike on, me back. We can all do a backyard wrestling one
I
together.
was thinking, but when Joey got a hold of me this morning and said that he couldn't make it on, I thought about, hey, maybe I'll get hold of Nubby and get him on here. And I know fucking at 8 a.m, dude's in the kitchen making fucking pancakes and shit because he can't get through a live stream without clinging around forks and plates and shit. And I mean, I love him, don't get me wrong, but god damn it, man, just wait an extra hour, eat a waffle later. But I want to talk about the rebranding thing. So I listened to your show, and it was kind of a surprise to me because, well, first off, yes, you did screw up your intro, which
Yeah, whatever.
It's rough though. I mean, I think I said it on JFW. I've been doing the intro for this show going on. It's gonna be 10 years in November, and for JFW, it's just eight in June. It happens. You can't be perfect every time, So it's like, I get it. I can, the fact that Kyle, pointed out, good on him. It's like it keeps hosts like this in check. I can respect that. That's what
Yep.
Andy Richter does. But so what's the idea of like? I know you kind of mentioned like you're more than just DC. Fourth Mother Box is a DC thing and everything. What is the concept that you know of as of right now? I know it's kind of like a progression thing. There's no finalization of it. But it sounds like you're changing the name. You're gonna change the format. You're gonna put segments and stuff into, like, other than the fact that you're more than just DC. What's the reasoning behind just changing the format and all that?
The Fourth Mother Box, it's been so fun for us doing this. And this is really just two friends who have known each other for 25 years, getting on and talking about things that we either text about or talk about in person, right? And outside of the terrible things we say about Mike, we make sure to add that on the show, what we say in text. No, but anyway, so it was like for the longest time I had been just kicking around in my head. I had felt that the Fourth Mother Box, and I don't know if Kyle felt like this, but it just hit a stagnant. It wasn't going down, but it's like there's something here, but we need to break through on it. And it's like Zack Snyder's universe is not coming back, and Kyle and I are both fine with that. We're excited for James Gunn, the future of that. And we're excited to see David Cornsweet's Superman movie coming out on July 11th, 2025. That'll officially kick off the new DC universe, and then Supergirl after that, Lobo, all that stuff. We're excited for that. But we always end up talking more than just DC because Kyle and I love the Avengers, Marvel. We love Star Wars. We love Metallica, and then hell, well, we've had shows. We've talked about those drones in New Jersey, which talking about UFOs and shit. And then we talked about that Oliver Anthony controversy way back when that was like breaking the internet and stuff. We'll veer off and might talk about like the Star Wars show that's going on at the time. It's just I think the Fourth Mother Box has an opportunity to be more than just DC Comics and just comic and superheroes in general, because Kyle and I are into more than just that, right? We are both musicians. We create music. I want the Fourth Mother Box to be a little bit of an opportunity for him and I to be able to put out what we've created together and on our own. Just to put it out there. So it's like creating a brand that's not so boxed in would kind of be where I'm coming from.
And to expand upon that, over the years of us doing that, we've noticed certain shows get more hits than others. And for example, when Tom and I went to the 40th show of Metallica, it was like one of our biggest shows ever.
Fourth Mother Box most listened to show ever was when we recapped the first night of the 40th Metallica show. So many people listened to that. It was more than I expected. I'm trying not to humble brag, but it's just like shit. Like, that's crazy.
And I think like as a like an art form of the podcast, you always want to like strike when it's hot, right? Yeah. You want to go with what the zeitgeist of the time, right? And I think for us, one, like Zack Snyder's Justice League has ended, so like Fourth Mother Box, it's a little bit it's not striking where it's hot right now, and so we're kind of trying to find a way to make it inclusive of all these things that we want, like an amalgamation of all these great things that we love. And so we're tinkering around with the name change and how we're going to put that forth in the future. So it's really kind of cool. Shake things up a bit.
I like how you squeezed in the word fourth in your explanation there, but different forthcoming. I love it.
There you go.
Yeah. No, I would say I think it's cool, and you guys are right. Like there comes a point where it's like you kind of like level out, and you wonder like what do I need to do to kind of like hit that next step or get, and that's what Joe and I kind of came to when we were doing this show. We tried to make this about pop culture, what's going on in, music and movies and comics and technology and all that stuff. And we just never got there because, like, for me personally, like, that stuff doesn't constantly interest me. Like, when a new movie comes out, oh yeah, we can talk about it, but I'm never the guy who's going to deep dive into it, and then over the years, it came more like, oh, we'll just talk to content creators. That gave us more views than what we were doing before. So, okay, so let's talk to cosplayers. Let's talk to, game creators, movie creators, like stuff like that. And we started doing that. And then all of a sudden, it was really hard to get people not only on the show, but even people we recently had on the show got too big for us again. It's like, hey, just wondering if you guys, it's like, hey, I know it's been a couple of years. Just wondering if you want to come on, do a quick recap and everything. And it went from me being able to message them on Twitter to now I need to reach out to their publicist or whoever's like,
yeah.
It's like, first off, like, with all due respect, I'm not gonna pay to interview somebody. Like, I'm just not gonna, like, that's not where I'm at financially to sit there and say, like, oh, I'm gonna give you X amount of dollars for you to give me 20 minutes of your time. Like to me, and how I explain it when it comes to wrestling promotions, I'm giving you free publicity. Like if you choose to share it or not, that's on you. But I'm willing to talk about your brand, your content, for absolutely no money. Like, I'm not asking for anything in return, And when I do that for the wrestling promotions, and they don't share it, well, that's on them. It's like I say,
Right.
I don't know, I can't do much more than what I'm already doing, And
Right.
But
And another thing I wanted to say too is, like,
yeah.
I live down the street from Disney World. Kyle visits often. Kyle visits often. We're going to talk about that shit too. So,
the
there's
crazy
your segue,
thing,
by the way.
before we talk about that, just one last thing about branding is, like, recently, like a little while back, I toyed with the idea at the encouragement of our buddy Brad of, like, maybe doing like a horror movie podcast, because I love superheroes and Metallica, but I also love horror movies. And just like, I did a little research into it and just looked on Spotify. I'm like, what if I named it this? And then I typed in podcasts, and unbelievable amount of horror movie podcasts. So it's like, the real challenge of, like, art creation and podcasting is, like, if you're going to do the same thing that everybody else is doing, how are you going to stick out? And I think that's the challenge for us all. And then you have to kind of, like, keep changing with the times in a way, or like growing as time goes on. So that's really the challenge.
Yeah, and that's why, like you said, like somebody's already doing it. You just got to find a way to do it different.
Yeah.
Like the growth that me and Joe got from just talking about ourselves and our lives, it's a little bit surprising, because, like, one day I came on, I had a really shit week. Like, I can't remember when it exactly was. I just had a bed and I just vented about my life, and I talked about how I have no money, about how I'm trying to pay my bills, how I'm trying to do this and get through my job. And people listen to that crap, people listen to, like, what my struggles were. And I got messages from people. I mean, like, I think there was one show I did, and, like, even Nubby messaged me. He's like, dude, I can relate to everything you just said. And I think a lot of people can. And I think, and that's why I told Joe, like, dude, I want to start doing this, because now we're going to be able to reach out to people who feel they're alone in some things, and, just realize that, like, a guy like me, like, this is what I'm going through, and this is how I overcome it. And a lot of mine has to do with religion. A lot of mine has to do with my faith in God, and my, love of a higher power who, even though you can't see, feels it's there. And that's where a lot of my overcome of struggles are, and that's not for everybody, but if you have that uplifting feeling, then there's that belief that you can get over. And obviously, again, talking to the right people like Kyle, who, are educated in that way, is always a positive. And like I said, I'm glad I changed my opinion of that. But once you find something that works and you slowly progress, that's where you find success. And I think it's cool what you guys want to do. It's definitely a risk when you sit there and say, like, I'm going to change something, because you don't know how it's going to go, but you need to.
You know, to kind of like piggyback of what you were saying, Travis, there is something to that. You know, talking about using content that like connects with people.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I noticed recently, I was watching a video actually just yesterday, where a guy was talking about, you know, his battle with addiction and what it did to his life and his family. And, you know, just the positivity. I mean, there was like over 1 million views, but just the positivity in the comment section was astounding. Like there wasn't one negative comment. And you know, if you're just talking casually with a friend or like, you know, people in general, and like somebody says, yeah, they were on drugs, the first reaction is like negative, like, oh, that person's on drugs, there must be a bad, horrible person. But like when you put it in that medium of like a video where you're talking about this is what I went through, and then this is what it did to me, and this is how I got through it. People, man, love that. People, you know, really jump into that. And I think there's a real space for it, especially, you know, with the world just continually getting weirder and stranger as time goes on. So that's really cool.
Yeah. I think, you know, talking with you guys here and everything, I'm definitely gonna have you guys back on a lot, because there's a lot of aspects of your lives I really want to deep dive into when it comes to wrestling, your music career, your profession, everything. I still don't know what the hell Tom does, but it doesn't matter. I just assume you're a line filler at fucking Disney. But
yeah, probably.
let me wrap up.
He's
the show.
Ariel.
Let me wrap up the show. Let me ask you this question, because again, I think my sister's a psychopath. For the life of me, I can't remember the ride. I don't know what the ride is.
Okay.
I know it has to do with Star Wars. I don't know how many different Star Wars rides there are, but
there's 3 of them.
Okay,
Rise of the Resistance, the Millennium Falcon, Smuggler's Run, or Star Tours.
No, the first one. The last
Rise of the Resistance.
Yeah, there you go, that one. Okay, so my sister's in line with her husband and her daughter. And she claims that this ride has a really long wait time. Like there's an extreme wait time for this ride. Even if you get the fast pass, there's a length of time that you're going to be waiting for it. She claims. So she's in line, and all of a sudden her daughter's not feeling well. Now, this is why I'm going to ask you this question, because I know you have a child. You're not the one running through Disney by yourself. So as a parent, if you're in this situation, she's in line, her kid's not feeling well, her kid throws up. It's just water. Her claim, it's just water. She throws up in line. And I asked her, if you knew and she said, I knew she was going to throw up. And then she did. I was like, if you knew your child was going to throw up, why wouldn't you get out of line? And her answer was, Travis, I was 10 minutes away from being on the ride. There was no way I was getting out of line. And I was like, that is a psycho way of looking at it. And she's like, if you understood how long it takes to get onto this ride, you'd understand. And I was like, I'm going to have a guy on the show tomorrow, and I'm going to ask him about this situation. And if he is to tell me he would 100% would allow his child to vomit in line, knowing that he's 10 minutes away from getting on this ride, then you know what? I will call you when the show is over, and I'll apologize fully. So, Tom, what I'm asking you is, if you bring your child to Disney and you're sitting in line for this ride, and you're 10 minutes away from, by the way, this is the first time they ever ride it. This is the first time they're getting on it. And you were to sit there and say, oh, crap, my child's about to vomit. And then they vomited because you're not willing to get out of line. Is that sanity?
That's insanity. I'm with you, Travis. You can call her up and say,
talk about the Batooper.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I would have taken my child out of line if I knew they were going to throw up. Reason being, and I get it, Rise of the Resistance is incredible. It's arguably the best thing that they've ever done from an attraction perspective. Easily. We could talk about that in another episode. Yeah. But if you know Disney, you know that their top class service most of the time in their customer service, those cast members would have let you right back on the ride. Take her off. Take her off. Those cast members would have got you on.
Is there a ride where that's acceptable?
No.
Okay.
No.
Kyle, what's your thought on it from a psychologist?
People have been shitting in the lines. You like people just drop trout and just fucking take a big meaty chud right in the middle of the line. Apparently, this is like a strange practice that Tom and I didn't know about until we started seeing articles about it. But it makes sense because you stand in line, like even at other theme parks like Hagrid's motorbike adventure over there at Universal, like it is always 90 minutes. And people,
that's on the conservative side, yeah.
Conservative side, right? Sometimes just for fun, I just pull up the app. I'm just like, I wonder how long Hagrid's is, and it's like, oh, it's 120 minutes. And it's fucking bananas, But people can't hold their bladder for 2 hours, so they just shit in the middle of the line or barf.
When she told me that, I thought it was insane. Not insane because I know that's how Disney is sometimes with certain people. It's insane that knowing her as a mom, she wouldn't have gotten the kid out of line. But I had to ask because I told her, like, I don't think it's normal. I know we're coming to the end of our time. I know you guys gotta get going. Let's tell everyone first off, where can they find the Fourth Mother Box, as known as Fourth Mother Box as of right now?
Yep. Yeah, as of right now, it's at Fourth Motherbox on Instagram, 4th Motherbox, and then youtube.com/Fourth Motherbox. The YouTube is kind of stagnant at the moment. When we rebrand, it's fully my intention that we get popping over there too. And Patzels will be coming on that page as well. That's the intention. So that's where you can find us.
Perfect. Yeah, because I do want. There's so much we're gonna talk in the future. I definitely want you guys to come back on. I know Saturday mornings aren't ideal, but you know what? It just works for me. It's making my voice sound less razzy, whatever. I appreciate you guys coming on. I appreciate everything that we have done together. I appreciate you guys being part of Freaknet Studios, and everything. You guys are awesome. Keep doing what you're doing, and make sure everyone who's listening to this head over to Fourth Mother Box. I listen to them on Spotify, but just search it wherever you find your podcast. Continue to listen to us on any streaming service. Go to Freaknet Studios, watch our videos over there, and follow us on social media. So, guys, that's all I got. As always, I am Travis C. I'm here with Fourth Mother Box, and thank you for listening to another episode of this freaking show. I'm out.